According to Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharishi, self-inquiry is the only way to happiness. From what has been said, it follows that I am self is happiness. Now then, how are we to obtain that happiness? Further, how to enjoy it permanently? Where thought sees, happiness reigns supreme. Such is the truth about happiness. Although the thought free state is gained and happiness is experienced for a while, such a thought free state obtained by contact with external objects doesn't last long. Therefore, it is clear that one can never achieve the thought free happy state permanently with the help of the five senses. Have we not already seen that deep sleep is a happy state? So is this deep sleep, after all, the goal of mankind. It cannot be, because it is also short lived and its happiness is interrupted by the waking state that follows in its trail. No one can go on sleeping forever. Once accumulated tendencies, vasanas, in the form of thoughts, will rouse one from sleep. The mind, in association with the body, works without stop all day long. At the end of such a hard day's work, the mind needs rest simply to be able to start afresh and work again. That is why the mind, which is a collective name for thoughts, subsides of its own accord in deep sleep. The mind, which now takes rest temporarily, cannot but enthusiastically jump out again into activity. If on his way home a man is caught in a downpour and takes shelter under the portico of some house, it doesn't mean that he will remain there permanently. When the shower is over, he will surely move on. Similarly, the mind gets a little rest, it sleeps. The state of activity in which it comes out again may be called either waking or dream. Thus, no one can remain in sleep forever, and so even sleep is only a temporary happiness. This state, which is called sleep, and which is a state between two vritti, that is, two thoughts or two active states of mind, has still another defect. During sleep, the mind knowledge subsides in darkness and doesn't know its original light, Satchit, existence, consciousness, whereas it should be made to merge without losing hold of its consciousness. Therefore, sleep is not a state of perfect happiness free from defects. Then, what is the way to experience such happiness? Let us turn to the word of Sri Bhagwan. Absorption of mind is of two kinds: lay, temporary stillness, and nasa, permanent destruction. That which is absorbed merely in lay will rise again, but if its form dies in nasa, it will not rise again. There are two kinds of absorption of mind. If the absorption is temporary, it is called manolaya, that is mental quiescence. If the mind is absorbed in laya, it will rise up again in due course. The second kind of absorption is manonasa, that is destruction of the mind. In this kind of absorption, the mind dies, and under no circumstances will it revive. Since it is dead, it can no longer give rise to misery. Therefore, the happiness obtained through the second kind of absorption, the destruction of the mind, is eternal. It is the supreme bliss. In the waking state, when we enjoy agreeable experiences through the five senses, there is quiescence of the mind for an extremely short period of time. In sleep, the period of mind's quiescence is a little longer. In death, also the mind is likewise quiescent only. All these are only quiescence of the mind, manolaya, and not the destruction of the mind, manonasa. It is not enough if misery, that is, mind, is temporarily absorbed, it must be destroyed. This is the goal of mankind. Temporary quiescence, lay of the mind, is temporary quiescence of misery, and permanent destruction, nasa, of the mind is permanent destruction of misery. That is, the mind itself is misery. Hence, let us find out what is to be done to destroy the mind. What is mind? The verdict given by Sri Bhagwan is the mind is only thoughts. If we give up all thoughts and observe what is mind, we will find that there is no such thing as mind at all. If one inquires without inadvertence into the form of the mind, it will be found that there is no such thing as mind. This is the direct path for all. For destroying the mind, it is enough if thoughts are destroyed. Let us therefore find out what thoughts actually are. This scrutiny is not an idle way of passing time. It is not the entire world struggling for happiness. Even this scrutiny is undertaken in view of obtaining that same happiness. Then what is the difference between the efforts of humanity in general and this effort undertaken by a spiritual aspirant? The efforts of worldly people lead only to a fleeting semblance of happiness, whereas this effort of an aspirant self-inquiry paves the path to perfect, eternal and unlimited happiness. Therefore, this research is so far more important and worthy than all other kinds of human endeavor. Throughout this scrutiny, one must be very vigilant and put forth one's very best efforts. Only then will the result of one's inquiry, the supreme gain of life, be obtained here and now. This is a truth well proved by Bhagwan Sri Ramna's own experience. Did we not begin with a proposal to scrutinize thoughts? For what reason? The aim is to destroy all thoughts and thereby to enjoy perfect happiness. Millions of thoughts rise in us, out of which we must search for and discover the first and root thought. When we do so, we will find that the first person thought, I am this body, which rises as soon as one wakes up from sleep, is the first thought. This I thought is the root of all thoughts. The mind is only thoughts. Of all thoughts, the thought I is indeed the root thought. Therefore, what is called mind is only the thought I, the feeling I am the body. Of the three persons, the first person I, the second person you, and the third person he, she, it, etc. I, the first person, is the first to rise. If the first person doesn't rise, the second and third persons will not come into existence. The first person is nothing but the thought I, and this alone is mind. The second and third persons will rise only after the rising of the first person I. The world is nothing but second and third persons. In sleep, the first person feeling I am the body doesn't exist. That is why the world, the second and the third persons, doesn't exist there. Only if that first person, the ego, in the form I am the body exists, will the second and third persons also exist. If there is no I thought, no other thing will exist. If the I thought, the root of all thoughts, is prevented from rising, all other thoughts will also be prevented. If a man wants to cut down the millions of leaves and hundreds of branches of a tree, is it not enough if he cut down the trunk? Similarly, a man who is trying to destroy all the millions and millions of thoughts will have succeeded in doing so if he destroys the I thought, their root. Did we not start with the objective of scrutinizing thoughts? From what we have seen above, It is now clear that it is not necessary to scrutinize each and every thought, and that a scrutiny of only the I thought, the root of all thoughts, is quite sufficient. Some may ask, will not happiness be obtained through the destruction of thought? If so, why should any thought be scrutinized? Is it not futile? They may even quote Bhagwan Sri Ramana, who once said, in Who Am I? It is useless to scrutinize the garbage, all of which is to be thrown away in one stroke. Such an ill-fitting question would be due to an improper understanding of Sri Bhagwan's teachings. Let us see how. What Sri Bhagwan said is, it is futile to scrutinize the various properties of all principles, second and third persons known self, which are willing self. No matter how much we scrutinize thoughts pertaining to second and third persons, they will never subside, but will only increase. He has never said that the scrutiny of the first person, that is self inquiry, should be given up. The first person thought, I has this peculiar property. If by inquiring who am I, attention is focused on it in order to discover what it is, this I thought will subside. But on the contrary, the more we attend to thoughts pertaining to the second and third persons, the more they will increase. In a cinema theatre, the further the screen is moved from the projector, the bigger the picture becomes, and the closer the screen is moved towards the projector, the source of light, the smaller the pictures become, even to the size of a mere dot. Similarly, the more the attention of the mind is directed towards second and third persons, the more the world pictures are multiplied. But if the attention is turned towards self, the source of the mind's light, the mind, the first thought I itself will subside. We shall see into this more deeply in the technique of self inquiry. The thought I am this body of flesh and blood is the one thread on which are strung the various other thoughts. Therefore, if we turn inwards, where is this I? All thoughts, including the I thought, will come to an end, and self knowledge will then spontaneously shine forth within the cave, the heart, as I. Just as all the beads of a rosary fall down when the thread is cut, so also if we who want to destroy all thoughts scrutinize the first person thought I, which runs through the and sustains all the second and third person thoughts are like the thread through the beads, all of them will be effortlessly destroyed. When the first person ceases to exist through one's inquiry into the truth of that first person, then the existence of the second and third persons will come to an end. Thus, the method of destroying the I thought is also the method which will destroy all other thoughts. Therefore, what is essential is to destroy the first person thought I. The only way to destroy it is to scrutinize its nature. There is no other way. How else to attain that state wherein I, the ego, doesn't rise, the state of egolessness, unless we seek the source whence I rises. Even in the path of self surrender, which is the path of devotion, bhakti, the destruction of the first person, the thought I, is achieved by surrendering it to God, having come to know the worthlessness of its nature, either by knowing that the ego I is non existent, or by knowing that self, the real I, is the sole existence. Thus, all that is necessary is to inquire into the first person I thought alone. We shall see in self inquiry how it is destroyed by means of inquiry. Hari Om Tat Sat.